Hi, welcome to this next Worship Catalyst lead guitar, electric guitar training video. My name is Chris. Welcome to this session where we're going to talk about pedals and the order of your pedals and how to set your pedals up to get a good basic tone. Okay, so what we have here is a typical stomp box setup that most beginner players have. But you may also have a digital processor like a Line 6, Digitech, or a Boss processor. And the neat thing about those is that they're already set up pretty much in this order, so you can hardly mess it up on those. But if you do have a stomp box set up, here's a typical order to put them in. What you want to do is you want to put your volume type effects first in the chain, and that could be a volume pedal, a wah-wah pedal, or what I have here, this orange compressor sustainer. After your volume type effects, the next thing that you want to put in the chain is your distortion effects. And I have an overdriver here, and then I have a fuzz. And that's not uncommon either. That for a lot of players you need a mix of distortion tones. And the reason why I have the overdriver first is because that's what I use for my rhythm tones. And then next, the fuzz is what I use for my leads. So after your overdrive and distortion effects, the next thing in the chain would be your modulation types effects, which would be a chorus, a flanger, or a phaser. I don't actually have one of those, but I'm using this white box as an example of where you might place that pedal. But also, as you can see, it's another compressor, and that's also not uncommon either. Some players like to throw their compressor sustainer in front of their overdrives, and there's also other players that like to put their compressor on after their overdrives. And then if you're like me and you can't make up your mind, then you just put them in both different places. So after your modulation effects, or your second compressor, would then be your time bender type effects, which would be like a delay pedal or a reverb pedal. And the thing to think about is, as these pedals are put in order, how they sort of process your signal. I mean, first thing that you want to be able to control is your volume. The next thing after that are your overdrives and your distortions. And then after that, then your choruses kind of overcoat or go over the top of those distortions. And then at the very end of that, then you want to manipulate your delays, your echoes, and your reverbs. So the next thing I want to talk about then is how do I set up my pedals to get a good tone out of them? Now the thing that you have to remember about pedal manufacturers is that they have to make a pedal that works for the wide array of guitars that are out there. So you have guitars like this one, which is a Fender Strat, which are typically known to be very bright and very trebly. But then there's also a Les Paul with a humbucker that's very thick and very warm. So when a manufacturer is making a pedal, they have to make it so the settings can cover both ranges of guitar and make a very bright guitar not sound so bright and a very dark guitar not sound so dark. So the thing that I always go for when I originally look at a pedal is basically start with everything straight up. Because again, the way most manufacturers start is that their preferred tone is with everything set at 12 o'clock or midway through. So if you want to get a feel for the way the manufacturer tried to make the pedal sound with their own ears and their own equipment, then start with everything at 12 o'clock. And then the next thing you want to do is then line up all your pedals so that they have what I call parity volume, which means that when you're playing with the pedal off and then you engage the pedal, you don't hear a lot of change in volume. You can kind of tell right there that there was a little bit of increase in volume when I stepped on the compressor. So you want it just like that, where you hear basically no change in the volume. Same thing with your overdriver there. So that one there, the volume's just a little bit too loud, so I'll back it off a bit. And that's close. The other thing though with distortion pedals though is that sometimes when you're playing a lead, you do want a little bit of a pop in the volume so you can step out in the mix a little bit. So it doesn't hurt to have that up a little bit louder than your other pedals, just so you get that. So now I'm going to set the fuzz a little bit. And there's a little bit of increase in volume there. So you get the idea though, that you're just trying to make sure that when you step on the pedal, you don't get this drastic shift in volume so that everybody, oh, you just stepped on a pedal. That's the thing, is that you really want to make it so that when you engage an effect, that it's not this noticeable increase in volume that lets everyone know that you stepped on a pedal. Okay, so the next thing, after you set all your levels, is that you want to look at your tone settings. And like I mentioned before, there's single coil guitars that tend to be brighter and humbucker guitars which tend to be darker. And when you're setting your tone setting on your pedal, then you want to be able to do the same thing. That when you step on the pedal, you're not all of a sudden hearing your guitar go from being very dark to very bright, or from being very bright to very dark. You don't want the pedal coloring your tone. Again, you want that parity to where when you step on the pedal, it's not any brighter than what it was before, and it's not any darker than what it was before. So let's try that with this overdrive pedal. Try it with it off. Try it with it on. That's pretty close. That's good. Let's try it with this one. With it off. That one. Need to reset the volume on that. So you can hear that one is still a little bit too dark, so I'm going to keep turning up that tone until I get it to where it matches evenly. That's pretty good. And then the next thing in your signal chain, which would be your modulation pedals or your delay pedals, you probably don't have a tone control on that, but as equally important on your modulation and your delay effects though is your mix control. And the thing that a lot of players tend to do with those pedals is, when you're practicing at home at a very low volume, in order to be able to hear the effect working, you end up having to turn the mix up pretty high, sometimes 70%, 80% to really hear the effect working. But when you go and play live, when they turn you up through a house system, then there's way too much effect overcoating your signal. And my recommendation is for most modulation and time delay effects is to not set the mix any higher than 30 or 45%. Trust me, it sounds better that way. So that's it for effects pedals and the order that they go in. So I thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, there's a website again at the bottom of this video, and we'll see you next time.